Welcome to Everything But the Kitchen Dink, the podcast where we discuss all things pickleball with your hosts, Rob and Andy.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Everything But the Kitchen Dink.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back, Robert. Welcome, Brodie Smith. We have a special guest.
Very special.
I mean, Carbon, your title is Senior Community Manager. That sounds very, very posh and official.
It's very, very posh. Yes. No, it's an exciting title to have. I've been on the team for a little over 2 years now, and my role comprises mainly of one, doing our podcast, Pickleball Cheat Code, that I run with Tanner, and then everything else that's community related. So working with our affiliates, all of our athletes, our ambassadors, that whole side of the business, and then wearing a lot of other hats too in the marketing side. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so we've got a lot to get into because, like I said, you're multifaceted. There's so much to talk about, and I do actually feel, I mean, you know, you'll tell us about how things are happening with Carbon, but you know, since pickleball came along, everybody likes the phrase "the fastest growing." Pickleball's the fastest growing. Every sport now I hear says it's the fastest growing in the world, but I actually feel like Carbon is one of the fastest growing companies in the world. How do you think about that?
No, I think that's pretty fair to say. And it's pretty cool that we are completely pickleball focused. There's a lot of other brands that come from, you know, other paddle products, other racket sports, for example, like Yola and Paddle Tech and, you know, other brands like that come from a different branch where we're just strictly focused on the premium quality paddles. And it's really exciting to see the growth that we've had before I even started, which, you know, we started back in 2021, but I've been part of the team for a little over 2 years now, and the growth we've had just from employee count in itself, and then also from just brand awareness and total sales and everything. It's been really exciting to see.
Just tell us a bit about your background, like your sporting background. Did you have a racket sport before you got into pickleball, or did you just grab a paddle and think that's it? It's
a little bit of both. So I never was like some tennis player or anything like that. I played racket sports for fun growing up, table tennis, you know, badminton. I'm from Seattle, Washington. So we had pickleball in my PE classes in the early 2000s. Oh, wow. So I was around the sport. Some people had it in their backyards around me, and we'd play like twice a year, and nobody knew the kitchen rules. People were just jumping around and using wooden paddles, and it was a blast. And I was obsessed with it from day one. So it was so bizarre seeing it, you know, right around COVID, see it spike and boom, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then my dad was getting really into it before I was in Arizona. And so whenever I visited him, we would start playing a lot. Then eventually I moved to San Diego around 2021, 2022. And then that's when I just got fully obsessed with the sport and fully dialed in. And, you know, I started taking it really seriously. I got coaching myself from a really great coach in San Diego, shout out Austin. And then I realized, you know, with my background that a little bit of the racket sports was able to translate, but I was basketball growing up my whole life. And then, so it was a weird transition.
Okay. So how did you become like so good at pickleball? You know, do you think it was more the table tennis side of things, or?
I was always around racket sports. So my dad played college tennis growing up. So we'd play tennis every once in a while. I always had some sort of racket in my hand, the table tennis, playing, you know, ping pong in the garage growing up. So I was always used to that hand-eye motion from whatever sport we had. I even took a racket sports class in PE as well, where we did every single racket sport. So I always loved that style of sport for fun. So it was easy for me to connect the dots and start being able to take it seriously and using like footwork from basketball, things like that. So yeah, it was easy to draw that connection there just from having a little bit of that background.
Okay.
Do you remember, I mean, you must have been one of the only schools that were playing pickleball back then in 2000. Do you remember the first time, or, you know, what was the perception when you were at school and you're doing pickleball?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of the schools around us. I mean, everything in the Pacific Northwest. I think a lot of those high schools, we'd be playing in the gym floors there, using those shitty nets with those wood paddles, like I said. So, like I said, nobody knew the rules
in the UK.
What's that?
We're pretty much still there in the UK.
Yeah, you're where we were in 2004. No. Yeah, the perception was just like everybody was just having fun right out the gate, similar to how it was when it started getting that boom in 2019, 2020, 2021, is that it was just really exciting at the time. Obviously, people just thought of it as just a dinky little game, nothing serious, but nonetheless, it was still really exciting, and, you know, having it in some people's backyards and stuff too, which was crazy just to be able to go go do that every once in a
Did you
while.
realize how lucky you were back in the day? I had to play lacrosse at school.
Lacrosse.
Feel
No.
bad for me.
Yeah, no, it's very, very fortunate looking back on it. It gave me an edge to where I am now, the few times I played a year for sure. But yeah, it's crazy to see where the sport's gone.
So I assume then, you sort of, you had that grounding and then you did other things. You went to college and you said you went to San Diego. So what made it come back full circle to you really playing competitively?
So starting, like I said, with my dad playing in Arizona, and I just was obsessed with the sport. I love the community side of it. It just fits my personality like crazy in terms of just being a community oriented person. So being able to find this role is so perfect. But I was in tech sales since I graduated college back in 2016, 2017. It was fun while it started, but then I had like my quarter life crisis moment where I was like, you know what? I don't care about this. This isn't something that I love. And I think it resonates with so many people, obviously. And one day I was at the beach and I called my manager and I was like, just on the beach in San Diego. And I was like, yeah, I quit. I'm done. I just threw in the towel. It was the most liberating risk that I ever took. And it felt so amazing, as scary as it was, not having any plan B or anything lined up. And then I really just was able to take a full step back and kind of see like, what do I really want to do with my time? And like, what do I care about? And I'm like, pickleball's blowing up. I got to see what's going on here. So I started networking like crazy. I ended up working for the Dink for a little bit. I worked there for about a year. And then after that, I transitioned to Carbon, which was, just a little bit over 2 years ago.
So did you know anyone at Carbon?
I was actually a brand ambassador early on. So my coach used Carbon and then I became an ambassador. Now it's funny that I'm managing the ambassador program. But yeah, so I started myself as an ambassador. I had a mutual that knew Garrett, which was my coach, and he just gave me his number and he's like, yeah, I'll get you in the program. But that was it. So I didn't really know anybody at all. And then kind of went into the interview blindly when, meeting with the leadership team, and the rest was history.
Amazing. So I've actually not looked you up on Duper. You're probably the only person I've never looked up on Duper.
He looks at his own Duper nearly every day, by the way.
What's your guys' Dupers?
I'm a 6.7.
I could tell.
I think mine's currently about a 4.15 or something.
Yeah, and I'm like a 4.123. But however, I mean, I wasn't going to get into the Duper, but what the hell? We push ourselves. We play 20-year-olds. We get beaten. We like, and obviously that affects our Duper. We say we're like everybody else. We say we don't care, but deeply.
There's always a part of you that cares, and I'm a 5'8" currently, and I'm trying to get above 6'0", so I don't know how long that'll take, or if I'll even be able to get over that hump, because it's a big jump. So it's tough. It's a grind.
But does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. I did an episode on this too on Pickleball Cheat Code. It's like so much of it is an ego thing, and of course some people are going to care about it way more than others, and I get that. It's an exciting thing to have a number that you're labeling yourself, but nobody's ratings are that accurate at the end of the day anyway. Like, I don't even think I'm as good as 5'8". If anything, I think I'm closer to 5'5", 5'6", more realistically. So, numbers are inflated, numbers are deflated. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you play one tournament, there's some guys that are 4'5" that are playing at a 5'5" level. And it's like, it makes it more fun that they come in there and then they're giving upsets to other people. So it's all just a number at the end of the day. I'll actually be meeting with Tito in a couple weeks to chat with him for Duper and have him on our podcast, which would be exciting. So I'll be asking him a lot of Duper related questions too.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the UK, I don't think I know anybody that's over a 5'3" or something like that. How do you? I know you're saying you're a 5'8". How do you get to that next level to get to 6? Because I mean, it must be really, really tricky to get there, because obviously, we're struggling to get up to the 4-5. So to get from where you are to get to 6, how does that happen?
One of the key things is I need to, if I really want to make that jump and take it seriously, is I have to be playing with people that are 6'0 plus. There's iron sharpens iron. And if the only way I got to my 5'5" level was because I was playing people that were that 5'5" level, and constantly thinking every single point of why I lost that point. What did they do differently? What was the little strategies that they had? And picking up shots from different people. Like Ben Johns, for example, if he was playing the same way that he was 2 years ago, he wouldn't be meddling much at all, really. He has been such an intelligent player, because he just said recently so many of his shots now are shots that he's been taking from other people, like his backhand roll. He didn't have that at all 2 years ago. If he was still backhand slicing everything, he wouldn't be that top 3 player. Well, obviously he's, you know, number 1 right now, but he probably wouldn't even be a top 2, top 3 player, I don't think. So being able to constantly, you know, remove your ego that you have all these perfect shots and everything. And if somebody that's even worse than you is hitting an amazing shot, you know, like ask them questions like, why are you hitting that return so deep? How are you getting me there every single time? Start implementing that into your own game. So making those adjustments and using everybody's unique styles of play to your own advantage is really key.
It's interesting. I mean, I think that obviously we do care about our duper, and I think that at our level, it's not vanity. It's more a case of, you know, you have a scene and everybody who is a pro knows everybody. Whereas for us, we might be entering tournaments looking for a partner. And when they see that, you know, if I'm a 3.9, then they're going to say, well, I'm not playing with you. And that
makes total sense.
But obviously, you know, we know duper are aware of these issues, and hopefully it'll get fixed.
Yeah. A lot of it comes down to just competing more. At the end of the day, you know, the more you play, the more accurate it'll be. So some people are really afraid to compete and put themselves out there for a tournament because they're at a 3.9 and they're afraid, or they're at a 4.0 and they're afraid that they're going to drop to a 3.9. So then they stop playing. It's like, you know, maybe you need to have those 2 losses, drop a little bit, and then that experience will make you a true 4.4, and you're actually working your way up after those losses. So it's, you know, not being afraid to regress and have a bad tournament, I think helps you in the long run. But like you said, it can be really complicated for certain leagues that you're trying to compete in, certain tournaments where that number really does matter and that label actually applies somewhere. So that's definitely true as well.
Yeah.
So just going back to your role within Carbon and this ambassador role that you have, what's that like on a day-to-day? Just give us an insight into how that works daily.
It's incredible. I mean, I'm dealing with requests all the time from our whole community. We have a really large community, about 2,000 plus ambassadors now, that we are very selective on who we bring out. So if we wanted to approve anyone and anybody, we'd have well over 100,000 people probably, or 50,000 people, who knows? Point being, we're very, very cautious on our application process, accepting less than maybe 5%, 10% of people that apply, and making sure we do have a strong community and there's actually value to being in this program to, you know, get the discounts, get the perks. So I'm working with all these people on a daily basis, and it's really exciting because I'm working with people that just love Carbon and love the brand. So it's such a fun environment, being able to connect to these people, making sure that they have what they need to go run their demo days, provide value in their own communities. And, you know, that's what's really helped with the growth of our brand too, is that grassroots community approach, is that everybody in every city matters. Like every person that we have representing the brand is so important. So making sure that I'm providing as much value to these people on a daily basis, along with our athletes too, who I'm constantly working with. And we have a great athlete team, and we have a very tight-knit relationship with everybody that we work with as well. So anybody that's on our team, you know, they have my number, they can FaceTime me, call me at 2 a.m. You know, we're a very family style business in terms of the way we operate. And as corny as it sounds, it's really true. So, you know, other brands might be sending out, you know, some application just to get them on the team and hope they do some brand awareness and stuff. But we're the exact opposite, where we want to work with people that we really like, that we have a good relationship with, and, you know, we're all growing together.
It's interesting because, I mean, we'd seen Carbon around, and then at the English Open, we saw Lynn, one of the founders, and we were just blown away with her, you know, down to earth, going up.
She
we
was
watched
very
her
innocuous.
Go up to people she didn't know, and just
she's the best.
help them. And
I call her mom every time I see her. She's like my second mom. She's the best.
And you know, obviously that is the way we realized very quickly. That's the way Carbon is run, and you know, we've seen an explosion in England.
Yes.
You know, I assume your ambassadors are all over the world. You know, what's the most obscure ambassador you've got that you would never have expected?
We have some ambassadors in Africa as well, which I just didn't even know, like the growth of the sport there. So that was exciting to see. But yeah, just the international presence is crazy. And then the amount of ambassadors that we've been bringing on, not a ton, but a small quality amount in Southeast Asia. So Malaysia and Vietnam, where we see so much growth in the sport lately. It's been really exciting to see the growth there. and we're actually planning a trip here in 2026 where ideally, we're in early stages, but myself and Tanner, and we'll be able to make a carbon journey over there, which would be really exciting.
Nice.
Any plans to come over to the UK?
Not in the short term, but I love the UK so much. So I would love to make a trip over there and see
maybe the English Open.
I was about to say,
good,
when is that? When would that be? The next one?
That's August. Yeah.
Okay, I'm booking my flights. Let's go.
You and Tanner.
Yeah.
Who's your male partner then? Who do you play with?
I mix it up. So this whole last year, I've been a nomad traveling everywhere across the US and Canada. Now I'm finally settling back into SoCal. So I'll be able to lock in partners and really, try to work and really level up my game. This last year really wasn't too much focus on, like drilling and training. It was more so just for fun, community related year, which was the best. But now going to go back to the drawing board, do a lot more tournament focus and, really try to nail down a partner. I'm playing in a tournament this weekend with, his name is Indy. I think he's 16 years old, but he's a baller and he's like the lankiest kid. He's like a CJ Klinger build, and he's the man. So he's a better player than I am. So I'm excited.
Is he going to take the left-hand side and come across and take all your dinks?
He's going to be a big right side player. I think I like playing left a lot and I prefer that big right presence. So I can't backhand counter very well. So that's why I'm not good on the right.
What do you think? I mean, just talking about playing generally, and you were mentioning like Ben Johns adjusting his game and things like that. What do you think the biggest changes in the pickleball scene and the game are at the moment? Because we see a lot of more tennis players coming into the game and it becoming more aggressive. Do you think it's the same way over there, or just tell us a bit about the game?
The aggression side, for sure, that's really cranking up, especially with more power paddles, and then especially with lifetime ball becoming the primary ball that we're seeing on PPA and the Pro Tour. The ball changes so much on the style of play. Like if I'm playing with a Franklin, I'm driving maybe 20% of my thirds. If I'm playing with a Lifetime, I'm driving 75% of my thirds. And that changes the whole dynamic of the game because how much more pace and power I can get on the certain ball and how many more times I'm going to actually speed up. So I think those really aggressive players can really set themselves apart. That's going to be happening more and more. And we've seen it all this last year too. We're going to be seeing a lot more lobbing. I think that's something that's going to really change the game for a lot of players. And we saw, I think Anna Bright do it like 18 times in a match against Ben Johns. And it's crazy. And it's like, it's a really hard shot, but it's so effective. And so that'll be really key. And then also the dynamics of the backhand dinks where, we're still seeing that transition of players that are slicing everything. When you're applying that pressure and you're rolling those dinks and hitting it like that James Ignatowicz style, and you're putting that pressure there, those players that can do that, they're going to edge out somebody on a match that can hit the same consistency of a chop. It's just way more pressure. It's going to lead to way more pop-ups. And if you can control that around and hold that properly, then it opens up speed ups down the line, speed ups cross body, and kind of creates all these layers of deception. So I'm really trying to work that into my game right now. But yeah, certain things like that. There's really little things that can change the whole dynamic of a match.
So how has being so heavily involved in carbon the last couple of years affected you? I assume before then you were on the pro circuit. If you're a 5'5", I'm guessing you...
Not necessarily. No, I wouldn't even consider myself a pro player, to be honest. I mean, there's so many high-end pros that are training 24/7. I would consider myself more of like a pro qualifier level player where like I'm kind of dabbling in that bubble at the bottom there. But by no means am I like a consistent pro. So that's what's so difficult by the amount of talent that is here and how stacked it is. And the difference between a 5'2" and a 5'8" is just night and day at this point. So there's and a 5'8" and a 6'1". It's crazy. So it all comes down to experience at the end of the day and how many tournament reps you're getting. But yeah, there's so many levels to it out here. It's crazy.
So I guess I mean, everybody, we would love to have a full-time career in pickleball, and you've got that. But then I guess on the flip side, you get busy and you can't drill as much, and it must affect your game as well.
The thing that affects it the most is when I'm coaching too much, and I do coaching on the side. So previously when I was in San Diego, I was doing only like 15 hours a week on the side. So I'm always focusing on coaching and getting as much coaching reps as I can in because I just love to coach. But all that court time is exhausting. And as I'm coaching, I'm playing, I'm moving, I'm getting as active and hands-on as I can. And then that takes away time from drilling. So it's about finding with my work schedule. I mean, I could look at this job that I'm doing right now as a traditional, just a business role. Whereas like I'm working remote, I'm working your typical 9-hour shifts, or 9 hours a day roughly. But I'm playing at night. I'm playing in the morning. Sometimes I'll play in the middle of the day. So it's not really that. It's more so the coaching side that makes it difficult to get in training as much as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit more about, well, I'm going to get into the paddles a bit later on, because obviously I've been using the carbon TRU-Foam. Obviously, you've got the wave paddles out at the moment. We'll talk about that. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to leave it for a bit later on?
Why? What else did you have in mind?
Well, no, let me talk about the paddles.
Something's on your mind.
Well,
something's on your mind. I can see it. I can see it.
Paddles are always on my mind. Like, I know you
yeah.
don't know me that well, but I love trying out paddles and testing
it's
paddles.
Fun.
But it's really fun.
Well, just on that, because Robert is a bit of an obsessive paddle freak. Sort of every week getting a new paddle. Even before we did the podcast, was just buying whatever was new, like an advertiser's dream. But I always say, like, obviously the podcast gives us the opportunity to try a lot, and I always say that I really want to try a paddle. How long does it take for you to get a true feeling of the paddle? Because sometimes, I know Robert especially, give it enough time.
I think the shapes and the thicknesses take longer to get used to more than anything. So if you're using one brand's like 14 millimeter elongated shape and you switch to another brand's 14 millimeter elongated shape, that should be a really, really quick transition in terms of getting used to it and understanding the feel. But when you switch from an elongated to a square shape on the same brand or a different paddle, that's what takes the longest. Exactly. That's what's the biggest switch, is because you're completely changing where that sweet spot is located. If I switched from A1, now I use the square shape. So I use the carbon 2 TRU-Foam Waves. And I just love the defensive side of it and being able to reset, and just, I feel like I can't miss thirds with it because it's so consistent. The whole face is its own sweet spot. Whereas the one shape, the sweet spot's towards the top. So it's got great reach, but it's harder to have that consistency. So when I switched to the 2, I had to get so used to having that sweet spot really close to my hands. So whenever a reset came, I had to really adjust that. But typically it only takes me personally an hour to get used to a new paddle, but it just depends on the shape and everything.
It's very true what you just said, because I've been playing with the carbon 3. I like the elongated shape, and then I tried the 4.
4 is great.
But I found it really difficult to go from, because I've always used elongated.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I'm just missing shots, and I've just I've not got it right. But
yeah,
I love this paddle. I think it's amazing.
That one was my favorite until I switched to Waves. I still love the TRU-Foam Genesis 4 so much. And then another thing too, have you added any weight to it? Because I was gonna say weight changes everything.
So, that's interesting. Yeah, that you mentioned weight. I have added weight just down here on both sides. And
I feel like that's the sweet spot. That's kind of the best spot for all paddles. I mean, it's all preference at the end of the day. Some people like to go towards the top corners, top middle, whatever that might be, or just the sides. I think bottom corners really stabilize the sweet spot in general, and then your kind of consistency and flow with it. But everybody's different.
I mean, these paddles hit like no other paddle. I mean, I as Andy said, I try a lot of paddles, but I always go back to using this paddle because
they're all amazing till it hits the net, and then it's on to the next one.
Exactly.
Tell us a bit about. You brought the Wave out now, which is the next one after this.
Correct.
What's the difference in the technology behind that, and does it make it better?
That's a great question. And better, well, I'll get into that. So the TRU-Foam Genesis we were the first to do the 100% foam core approved paddles to the market. Yeah. So the Genesis was a huge step forward in the industry to make a Generation 4 pickleball paddle. So this was crazy, and it was so exciting to be a part of this. So shout out to our owner, Garrett, and our engineer, Nam, who just paved the way on that process, and we're just geniuses in the development.
We met Nam.
Oh, you met Nam. Nam's such a goof. God, that guy's hilarious.
He's a good guy.
I hate him, but I love him. He's the best. And then, so credit to Nam and Garrett. They, so the voids on the voids, as in the holes that are cut out within the foam, they're all 14 millimeter paddles. Yeah. So prior to dictate the difference between power and control for paddles, you either made it thicker to make it more plush and more controllable, or you made a thinner paddle to make it more like a, poppy plank of wood. Whereas with TRU-Foam we didn't need to do that. We realized we only need one thickness, and based on the model that we release, that'll dictate the balance. We're able to go customize it with all the prototypes that we did to find that proper balance between the dwell time, pop, power, control, everything in between to make kind of that ideal paddle. I consider the Genesis a little bit more of the all court, whereas the Waves is a little bit more of a power paddle. Well, definitely a power paddle. So the Genesis has the holes throughout it. Maybe there's an image you can show in editing after. And then the Waves it's the same foam core material, but it's called the Waves because there's literally waves in the foam pattern. Yeah. And what that does, it allows for so much more flex in the middle and dwell time. So, and this is like our marketing language that we use. It's soft when you need it to be, but then it hits really hard when you need that power. And it could not be more true, because when you're transitioning with the Waves, it's really soft and absorbent and plush for those soft shots. But when you put plow through behind it and you have a good swing pattern, that thing just launches. So it's not really poppy. So if I'm just hitting a flat block, it's not going to just fly off the face, which is good. So I really think the Waves and the Genesis in general they cast such a great wide net between players that are looking to develop their game at an early, like maybe 3.0 plus level, and then pro players too that want to perform at the highest level, because it allows you to have that soft control when needed. And then when you do need to have that dwell time and get crazy spin and everything else, you're able to apply that to your game. So it's great for so many different players.
Well, it's interesting because obviously these power paddles have come on board in the market, and our perception for the early ones, it was the more power, the less control we had. And so when this one came along, and it's fair to say that you've got so I sort of got into the point, because we're not tennis background, so control, we've gone through that power phase and we're almost coming back to the control phase.
That's what everyone's doing.
Yeah. So I was sort of a bit put off when these came along. And then I was using a Pro 4, which is a power paddle. It just suited me, and I just felt that I was comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I've not picked it up since I've had the 4. I'm using the 4. And the transition was just great for me. And it's given me, as a non-tennis player, exactly what I needed.
For sure.
But can you just explain what the difference is between the 1, 2, 3, and 4? Because basically, if people don't realize, and people are seeing carbon everywhere here now.
Yeah.
They're all the same, aren't they? They're just different shapes.
Exactly. So it's all going to fit different play styles. So there's no right or wrong shape, right? Every shape is just going to fit a unique player in what they're looking for. And back to your point too, I think the difference between these power and control paddles, why they're coming back to control. I mean, as a coach, control is the most important thing by far. Everybody can generate enough power. It's not an issue. Like, there are certain levels of the game where a little bit more snap is obviously going to be helpful. But when you're working towards something that's really consistent, really durable, and that foam core just doesn't change throughout play, it's the same when you get it day 1 versus day 500. That is what makes it so easy to work on your game and focus on the fundamentals versus relying on something that can be really exciting, where you hit it and it just flies off the face. It forces you to play linear. You're having to hit these straight line drive shots, which can be really exciting at times and really flashy, but at the end of the day, it's not going to help you be a better player. So I just wanted to note that, because I think you brought up a really good point there. And then in regards to the shapes, we have the 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 1 is the elongated with the elongated handle. So it's like, if you're like a tennis style player and you want that fully elongated, great for a 2-hand backhand, that one's great. The 2 is the full traditional standard square shape, which is what I love now the most. You're going to be having a lack of reach and a little bit of a shorter handle, but you have a giant sweet spot in the middle. So it's amazing for developing your game, and then also playing at a really high level for consistent transitions for when people are just ripping the hell out of the ball. Then you have a 3.
Just jump in there on the 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting because when I was in America in the summer, and I was reading about the different shapes, I felt like the perception for a wide body was more for a beginner. So it's really interesting. Have you heard that perception?
that is in it, and it should be too. Like in theory, like if you are a beginner, I do think a wide body is best because you're going to have more room for error. But that is also the perception, whether that is should or shouldn't be the case. Because most high, and I'm using one. And when I made the switch, I was like, "There's no way I'm ever going to use a wide body or a square. I'm not some beginner loser.
Yeah.
I don't need it." And then I fell in love with it so much because I realized yeah, exactly. The wide body's great. But that perception also started because we saw all the highest level players come into the sport. They came from a tennis background because it's such a fast transition for them. And then, of course, they're going to gravitate towards the elongated shape. I mean, having a little bit of a tennis background myself, just barely, like that's what I started using too, because it was the most common, because you saw all the top pros using it. And it looks cooler too, to be honest. It just looks cooler than a wide body. The wide body looks a little bit dorky compared to it. So I think that is part of why that started. So all the top players are using it. So then you see old 90-year-old granny using the square paddle, then you're like, okay, that's where this perception's coming from. But that 2 shape, it's just, I just love it. And then the 3 shape, moving on back to the shapes, is the 3 shape is elongated. There's the 3 right there. So it's got a longer face than the 1. So it's a little bit larger sweet spot and more control, a little bit more head heavy. That one's a great hybrid type shape. But then we have the 4, which is a true hybrid. It can get confusing, I know, for people listening. And then the 4, the true hybrid, has an arrow curve top and then a tapered neck. So really easy to get a good 2-hand backhand. Not as big of a sweet spot as the 2 and the 3, I would say, especially not the 2. But the hand speed you get and the maneuverability and your swing weight and twist weight balance on that is probably the best you can find, because it just really cuts through the air. So I love the 4 shape so much. And that's where we see most people going. So if anybody's looking to start with a carbon paddle, I do recommend the 4, because I think it casts the widest net between, like a tennis player can come in and use it, and then a beginner can come in and use it. And it still has that good balance between the 2 of them. So I think the 4 is just the most well-rounded, I would argue.
So do you think, obviously you were the first to bring the foam paddles to the market. Do you think that foam is going to be here to stay? We've had titanium, we've had, carbon fiber, we've had fiberglass, we've had all different surfaces, Kevlar. Do you think foam will now be the one that's here for a long time, or do you think there's something else already been worked on, or can you tell us about anything that's already been worked on?
Turn off the mic for us.
We're working on some other stuff, as we always are. So can't say what our future holds. And I honestly don't even know the full development process of what we're in regarding future tech. I've just got some sneak peeks of it. But regardless, at least from where the market's going, foam is clearly here to stay. For how long? Who knows? At least a couple of years. It's such a great material to have that consistent plush play, where it is, like I said, soft when you need it, and then powerful when need be too. And there's a lot you can do with the customization of these foam cores. I think foam is kind of the popular route right now for several reasons. It's great.
Okay, and I just want to touch on something you said previously with the lead tape or the tungsten. I often say to Robert, when I've got a new paddle, should I be putting tape on? Do I need tape? Everybody's got tape on. And I never have, mainly because, I don't know, maybe I'm a little scared. Should we be putting tape on? Is it only a positive putting tape on?
It's typically only a positive. So, I mean, I would say this is true 75%, 80% of the time. You might find people that just hate it. Some people are stubborn for a transition too. And they after they don't get the same feel that they have after 20, 30 minutes of play, they immediately just like reject it, which is like, if we're going to make transitions to different paddles, different weight setups, like let's at least give it a couple play sessions before you make up your mind. Because people are always looking for such short-term change and such short-term gratification within their game improvement. So they hit a couple bad shots and wreck. They're like, I can't do that again. I can't keep missing drops in front of my friends. So got to be more patient, of course. But I do think putting some weight on the bottom corners whenever I'm coaching and whenever I'm, helping people with their paddles, it typically is more well received. People typically play better with it. They have a bigger sweet spot. And then from a coaching side too, with that weight, since a paddle will come in at like 8 ounces, usually it's a little bit whippy for people. So when you do add that weight, it's going to allow for more stability and more consistency in your motion, slightly less wrist movement, and in pickleball, less is more, of course. So keeping everything consistent out front, and it's easier to swing that lighter paddle around. So, which is what you don't want. So I do think it's always worth trying that to start and giving it a good amount of time, but it's not always the right answer. I mean, Viv David for the longest time was never using any weight on her paddle, and she's insane and better than I am. So who knows?
Yeah, and I know like other athletes and other pickleball pros that just use some of the paddles straight out of the box and they don't bother adding weight. For me, I have added weight onto this paddle.
But is that just because you're used to adding weight to every
No,
paddle?
because I don't do it with every paddle. I get a feel, and I just feel like I felt that I could just do with a bit more power. So I just added weight, and it just seems to just change the paddle. You know,
it does. Especially with the foam cores. With the foam cores too, especially with these TRU-Foam paddles, is since dwell time and the spin that you get with these foam paddles is so important. When you add that weight, it's going to sit in even longer when you hit that ball and that plow through. So it's going to help. The weight just typically adds more power and more control. It usually does both. It's not like a sliding scale where you just lose it.
Right.
You're going to lose some hand speed, of course, just a little bit, but you gain everything else. So that's typically the better return on investment, in my opinion.
I'm going to buy 10 meters of tape. I'm going to have a little bit of paddle on my tape.
Yeah, add some people crank it all the way around. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I bring mine up from 8 to about 8, 9. Mine goes pretty heavy. Some pros are going 9.4. Some are going, I see the most common. And if I were to recommend and cast a wide net here too, it'd be around 8.4. I think is a good spot for people to be.
And does that give you more power then on your serves as well? If you putting tape onto about 9, making your paddle weight 9.4, does that mean you're getting a lot more plow through on your serves?
100%. Yeah. I rip my serves pretty good because of that weight too. It helps a lot. I mean, it's not going to make a massive difference on the power on these drives and serves, but it's more so on putaways and opening up the sweet spot for some resets and transition shots, I think, is where I see most of the value versus just power on baseline shots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to carbon generally, obviously, we've talked about the paddles. I assume those paddles have taken over sales currently, and
for sure.
It's just the way the market's going. But you're more than just a paddle company. You're doing so much for the community, and this is what I love so much about pickleball. Tell us some of the things that is going on in the community and what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a Discord that we've launched, about a year ago, I believe, for part of our carbon community. For all of our ambassadors and even non-ambassadors, we highly recommend everybody, 1, to apply to be an ambassador, or 2, to just join our Discord. If you, we can put a link somewhere. And then if not, if you just Google Carbon Pickleball Discord, you'll find a link on our website and how to join it. And what we do here is so many different events, giveaways. We do live watch parties. We do giveaways for top sellers of our ambassadors, whatever that might be. We're actually doing a giveaway right now for a new paddle launch that we have, where the winner gets a coaching session with Elise Jones at our next tournament in LA. So many fun things that we're doing on that side. So that's just one of many things that we have going on too with the carbon community, which is great.
Okay. And are you doing, you're creating your own tournaments, working with kids and things like that?
We will be looking to do more clinics here pretty soon. We're looking to do a whole carbon clinic phase that we'll be looking to expand in 2026, which will be really exciting. And then we will be working with some other partners on hosting some carbon tournaments too. The Carbon Classic we have coming up here pretty soon as well, which will be great.
How do you go about choosing people that you want to represent the brand, like the pros that you have? The teams that you support, how do people get involved in that, and how do you decide who's going to be
It's a good question. A lot of it now is, since we have such a good foothold and baseline in the community, where we have such a trusted team, trusted customer service, trusted brand, is now we do so much of that based on references and word of mouth. So trusting, because we already know we have such a great relationship with our current ambassadors and our current athletes. So we trust them in terms of feeding us the right people and the right players to work with. And then we'll start from there, versus having just a blind inbox where people can just throw in an application, which we do review all the time too. But it's more important for us to review people that we trust and work with closely already, and then kind of build things from there. And our focus is working with, we'd rather have a 5'8" player in our team that's a really good person than a 7'0" player that's not the greatest guy to work with. So that's our focus, and where we typically like to build our brand around is having good people, good energy, great environment, because that's what, like I said, as cheesy as it sounds, that's what pickleball is truly all about. That's why we're here talking today. That's what it's all for. It's all about community, all about staying connected, and that's why I love what I do too.
And do you ever, in your travels, come across someone and just see them and say, we got to get them?
Yeah, I've been sponsoring people throughout this whole last year, going around the whole US and Canada. I've been doing some sponsorships in different cities that I've gone about, people that I think have really great character.
He obviously didn't see us, did he?
No, yeah. I just missed you.
What it means is you've not seen us play, and it's probably better it stays that way.
Once I do, I'm going to be sending a contract right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm ready to sign.
Do you ever find that you're fighting with other paddle companies to get somebody?
Oh, yeah. For some of the
everybody, you find out that everybody wants that person.
Yeah. So it can get into the weeds, especially. So, I mean, there's two different conversations. There's like the lower end pros, and then there's the really small bucket of like those top 15 players that can really change, because outside of that top 10, not many people know who the rest of the players are necessarily. But yeah, when you're in that top 10, top 15 conversation, some of the prices that get thrown around too are just crazy for some of the pros. A lot of the pros will just simply follow the money. And then some pros will follow the brand. And then obviously the money is important too. So that can really change how we evaluate and look at certain people. Some people, if they're just going straight for the money, we'll simply pass, because there's just no need to get that, partnership set up.
There's obviously other brands out there. Well, there's a lot of other pickleball brands and paddles. How does Carbon plan to stay ahead of the game? How do you keep going and be that brand that people want to be attracted to and buy? How do you do that?
That's a great question. And, it's a conversation we have a lot with the leadership team too, is how do we, keep positioning ourselves forward? Is one, what we have been doing is tech and innovation. So like I said, Garrett and Nam, and then we have other product managers that we're working with now, and we've doubled our employee count in the last year, I think, at least. So staying huge into being pioneers in the game. We always want to be, putting our best foot forward and not just following suit like 95% of the companies do, or they'll see something working and like, okay, let's do that and add one little tweak and call it our own thing. It's like, yeah, I get that, but no hate to any companies that do that at all. You guys do you, but that's not our focus. Is we always want to lead with that innovation. And then our customer service is unbiasedly, it's just the best in pickleball. Like I just fully stand by that. And I say that with my chest. Like our customer service team, shout out to all of them. They're incredible. So we've made such a great investment early on into building that. More than half of our team is customer service, just to make sure that we're providing the best experience possible for everybody in the community. Any issues that you might have, we have everyone's back. So that's paramount for us. And leading with that is just going to only make us better as we continue to grow. And then, with the community side, there's so much more that we want to do. Like I was saying, with camps, with clinics, working with more collegiate programs, whatever that might be, there's always work to do to continue building with the right people and growing as a company.
Also, I think your paddle designs are really cool. I mean, they're just...
Yeah, the first time I saw one,
they look cool. They're not in your face, but there's just something very trendy about them.
Yeah.
Which I think is just ahead of the game. I don't know what it is, but they're really good.
Something about it.
Yeah, there's something about it. Yeah.
No, so that's what drew me to the brand really early on too. Yeah. Even the most simplistic design that we had, I there was something about it, and I fell in love with it right away. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really sleek. It's gender fluid in terms of it's not too masculine, it's not too feminine. It's got a good balance, and then it's also not too poppy, where it's like your paddle should be the accent to your gear, your outfit, your style. It's not the paddles, the face is doing all the talking. It's nothing crazy, So finding that balance to make sure it's aesthetically pleasing is key.
Yeah, I mean, go on. Sorry,
no, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think like I've seen like quite a lot of you. I know a few of the sponsored players in the UK and who are ambassadors, and I've seen them with all the jumpers on, the hoodies, and but everything looks so smart and well made.
Yeah.
So it's not just about your paddles, but it's also about your clothing brand and your hat that you've got on now as well.
Hats are great.
Yeah, also, it's like I've been
Oh,
carrying
yes.
this around.
I
How
love
cool
it.
is
The
this?
mini paddle.
And if you're listening and you're not watching, this mini paddle TRU-Foam key
really
ring
cool.
is just the most awesome thing I've ever been sent.
Even when I'm driving, I'll hold that and work on my flick. I'm always training, right?
I'm actually going to put some lead tape on this as well.
I've never heard anyone say that. That's good.
But what I was going to say also is that, when we speak to paddle companies, obviously, you imagine that in any business, there's always a race going on. But, sometimes I wonder, would you sometimes hang back a little, let people be the first to go to market, maybe make a few mistakes or not yet have the perfect paddle, and then our companies and yourselves, are you sort of looking to improve on what comes out first, so that you're not
For sure
always wanting to be first to market?
Yeah, I mean, just first to market is kind of a blind way to look at it. So I think what you just said is so spot on. It's not just first and that's our only goal, and then hopefully everything kind of follows suit. It'll be first to market if it makes sense. So there is the Gen 3 paddles that started coming out, and we could have easily done something very similar or something right around that same time where they added foam around the honeycomb core, but we saw those breaking left and right. Some of these paddles, not to name any brands, were lasting a day or less for some of these top pros. And even non-pros, they were lasting a month and then they would break. So, we're very serious about testing and having multiple iterations. We can actually develop paddles here and samples directly in-house in SoCal, which gives us a huge advantage, whereas so many other brands are having to get them from overseas, and it takes, several weeks at a time, and then they'll go back to the drawing board, make a tweak, and then a month later they have another sample. It's like, well, yeah, being able to just turn them around in hours is insane. So we can make the littlest adjustment, add one more void within the foam, be like, how does this bounce here? Does it open this part of the sweet spot? It really, expands our opportunities, which is great.
That's cool.
It's a really great brand.
Yeah.
And I know you're short of time, but if there's one thing you could say to, let's say there's 4-0 players out there and they're trying to level up to 4-5,
Yeah, and they keep getting beaten by tennis players.
What's a piece of advice you could give
asking
them?
for a friend?
Drill, just obviously you're going to hear this all the time, drill as much as you can. And when you're drilling, focus on some drills where you have maybe like somebody in the midcourt, have them just rip the hell out of the ball towards you while you're at the kitchen line, and really have that person at the kitchen line just focus on flat, consistent blocks and being very consistent and compact and out front without having any big swings. For these bangers, these tennis players that you guys are playing against that you're mentioning that, really can dominate at that 4-0 level until they, get beaten down by some, simple changes, is just really keeping them back. Don't let them into the kitchen, and hitting flat and down at the ball is so important. So really working on those drills, and it's about rewiring your brain every single time you're drilling to be as calm and relaxed as possible for these counters and defensive shots. So when people are putting these missiles at you, either take a step off the line and have more reaction time, or just calmly react and, have these simple blocks. The more tense you are, if you feel your shoulders tensing up, if you feel your calves tensing up, you are doing something wrong every single time. I'm self-coaching myself on this a lot too. When I'm playing with somebody that hits really hard, I'll naturally do it. It's your instinct. But the more you can unlearn that and rewire your brain to be more calm, your reaction time will just skyrocket, and it'll be so much easier to counter these players.
Brilliant.
This time next year.
This time next year. Let's go. I can't wait. I'll be checking your duper.
Or
I'll be checking your duper monthly.
It could really go either way. But look, I know you're very busy. You push for time, and I really appreciate you and the listeners do. And thank you so much. And I feel like there's so much we haven't discussed that when you come to the English Open, we'll get you back on again.
Yeah,
I was about to say, even if that doesn't work, I'll come back on anytime. And then more than anything, it'd be incredible.
Do you want to give yourself your own podcast a little shout out as well, where people listen?
So we've done about 32 episodes now, which is crazy. And they come out every single Wednesday. It's Tanner and myself, Tanner Tomasi, Tanner, the elite pro and one of the best coaches and social media presences in pickleball. So him and I do Pickleball Cheat Code together, which is very exciting. So our podcast is fully focused not on like pickleball news, none of that stuff. It's all about getting better as a player. So go through YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and look through the episodes and click on any that sound interesting to you to develop your game. So whether you're driving, going on a long walk, or you want to watch on YouTube while you're working, throw it on. It'll help you, whether you're subconsciously tuning in or directly listening. Yeah, that's definitely tune on in.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. It was so nice chatting with you both, and can't wait to meet you guys in the UK in person and get some games in, do some coaching. It's going to happen.
Verbal contract now.
Thank you very much for coming on.
I'm signing it.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. Take care.